Thank you for joining us for the 2024 Kern County Economic Summit. I'm Janelle Capra, President and CEO of the Greater Bakersfield Chamber. We're excited to partner again with Cal State Bakersfield and Kern EDC for an update on Kern County's economy. This broadcast would not be possible without the support of our sponsors, the knowledge and perspectives of our speakers, and of course, the talented team at KGET. Special thanks to our platinum sponsors, Adventist Health and Kaiser Permanente, silver sponsors, Kern County, Chevron, and thanks to our bronze sponsors, Era Energy, Bank of America, California Resources Corporation, Kern Family Healthcare, the City of Tehachapi, Tri-Counties Bank, Valley Strong Credit Union, and Wonderful Orchards. We truly appreciate our sponsors who are the economic drivers of our region. This program is only possible with your continued support. Thank you.
This portion of the 2024 Kern Economic Summit is brought to you by Adventist Health and Kaiser Permanente.
Good evening. I'm Maybelle Equigan, Senior Vice President for Kaiser Permanente, Kern County.
And I'm Jason Wells, President of the Central California Network for Adventist Health.
Jason and I are happy to welcome you to this year's Kern County Economic Summit and are thrilled to again be sponsors of this very important event.
As you know, both Kaiser Permanente and Adventist Health are committed to caring for our community here in Kern County today and in the future. You may have seen that earlier this year, Adventist Health added a new hospital to our family. The Bakersfield Heart Hospital is now known as Adventist Health Specialty Bakersfield. It's a new name, but you can expect the same high-quality care. As we grow access to advanced specialty services, you can expect Adventist Health and Kaiser Permanente's partnership at this hospital to expand as well.
Healthcare is not immune from the significant economic challenges we face in our country today. We are competing with all communities for a limited pipeline of doctors, nurses, and support technicians despite inflation and rising costs. Kaiser Permanente and Adventist Health are committed to delivering the high-quality healthcare our community deserves, regardless of what the future holds.
As our organizations continue to meet the challenges of today, we're always looking for additional opportunities to partner and innovate. Collaboration between our organizations and with the broader healthcare community will be the cornerstone of meeting financial challenges.
We are committed to our continued investment in the workforce education infrastructure necessary to improve the pipeline of new healthcare workers. We do this by supporting nursing programs, public health programs, and mental health career programs, both at Bakersfield College and at CSU Bakersfield. Soon, our Central Valley could be home to its own medical school so that we can grow our own physicians and keep them here in our amazing community.
Adventist Health continues to expand its residency programs, bringing recent medical school graduates into our community for advanced training. We just welcomed 23 new primary care providers into our network in March, and we will quadruple that number by the year 2030. We have 8 hospitals in Central California and 128 clinics, providing over $1 billion in salaries and wages. This is reinvested in communities across Central California. Many patients travel from Kings, Fresno, and Tulare counties right here to Bakersfield for our advanced cardiothoracic care. And we just added 2 hospitals near San Luis Obispo on the Central Coast to our family. Adventist Health is also home to the AIS Cancer Center in Bakersfield, where 70% of women choose to receive their breast care with Adventist Health. AIS Cancer Center is also one of only 40 centers around the country to be named to the White House's Moonshot Initiative for advancing care.
Kaiser Permanente has 10 locations throughout Kern County that provide a combined $418 million a year in employee salaries and physician compensation. Additionally, Kaiser Permanente provides $232 million annually to local hospitals, ambulance companies, skilled nursing facilities, and ambulatory surgical centers that provide care to our 120,000 members locally.
Annually, Adventist Health and Kaiser Permanente contribute $66 million towards important programs that target food insecurity, mental health, homelessness, and promote healthy lifestyles. And together, we are collaborating on the Blue Zones project in Bakersfield to make our streets more walkable, reduce tobacco sales to kids, and increase well-being initiatives at workplaces throughout the city. We want everyone, everywhere, to live better, longer, and to thrive.
Together, Adventist Health and Kaiser Permanente heal this community in ways that go beyond medical care, impacting the economic health of Kern County and its residents.
Greetings, Roadrunner family at California State University, Bakersfield, Kern County's university. I'm Dr. Vernon B. Harper, Jr., Interim President of CSUB, the most powerful engine for hope in our region. In a matter of days, the Roadrunner family will send another 2,000 exceptional graduates out in the community to solve problems, contribute to our economy, and to serve their friends and neighbors with distinction and integrity. And the vast majority of those graduates will remain right here in the communities where they have deep roots, and they will exemplify to the next generation that higher education is the most direct route to the life they envision for themselves and their families. But make no mistake, whether you have a PhD, a high school diploma, or you did not have the opportunity to finish grade school, your hard work is seen and respected by every member of this community. For here in this great valley, we value an honest day's work, ambition, and enterprise. The will to work defines us. When visitors to our region travel up and down Highway 99, they look out their windshields and they see a vast landscape. Perfect rows of almond trees, grapevines, citrus, carrots, and many more. But what they're really seeing in the heartland of California is the heritage of a region planted in the fertile soil. Our people have come to the Central Valley from everywhere in the world to grow food. And in doing so, they have grown entire cities, industries, and economies based on the agricultural heritage that fills every resident of our region with pride. In the energy transition, Kern County is taking center stage as California pushes forward to meet its mandate of carbon neutrality. At CSUB, we are working with industry partners and the greatest scientific minds in the world, including our own faculty members, to advance energy and innovation. And we are not undertaking this work just for the good of science. We want our research to be used in the creation of stable, high-quality jobs, because the men and women who have built this industry from the ground up cannot be left behind in the energy transition. Those bold instincts that have guided pioneers and risk-takers in Kern's two economic powerhouses for over a century are now moving us forward into new realms of opportunity in manufacturing, transportation, aerospace, entrepreneurship, and countless other sectors that have emerged in this new age of discovery. The exceptional scholars and researchers among the CSUB faculty are working with our community to prepare our students to fill the jobs and provide the expertise and leadership to anticipate future regional economic opportunities and workforce needs. But that's what happens when students arrive at CSUB. For many in our region, getting here is the hardest part. The parents who send their sons and daughters to CSUB know the meaning of sacrifice and what it's like to raise a family paycheck to paycheck. College is a mystery to most of them because they didn't have the opportunity to go themselves. But then, on commencement day, it all falls into place. The years of sacrifice, the questions, the sense that they were not always a part of the journey. Because if there is one language everyone understands, it is the language of triumph. In that moment of perfect joy, we're reminded that in a county so rich with natural resources, that the greatest resource of all is our people, our students, and the families who work, struggle, and strive so that these future leaders may soar. Thank you, and may we work together to seize the brighter future that is just beyond the horizon for every family in Kern County.
I know the importance of taking care of myself.
How are you doing between practices?
I feel pretty good. Surrounding myself with a great team.
Darren, we're gonna take a quick look at your knee with ultrasound. Everything is looking great.
But not just for me, for them.
It's great to see you again, man.
Thanks, JB. For all that is me, for all that is you. Kaiser Permanente.
What are we here for? We heal hearts so you can love more. We fight cancer so you can experience more. We use leading technology so you can connect more. Here, we've assembled world-class medical expertise to help you reach everything you were made for. Adventist Health. More starts here.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2024 version of the Kern Economics Summit. My name is Nyakundi Micheka, and I'm an associate professor of economics at Cal State Bakersfield, and also the director for the Center of Economic Education and Research at CSUB. Thank you so much for joining us. So in this presentation, what I intend to do is to talk about a couple of things that happened and look at how changes in population numbers or how migration affected various counties in Kern County, or rather various counties in California. So right here in the front of your screen is a timeline of the COVID-19 pandemic. You'll find that in 2020, we had the first COVID case in California, and we had the first stay-at-home orders. Folks moved home, worked from home, and we had some urban to rural migration. Then, in the year that followed, in 2022, we had the Great Return, or the return back to the office, and we had some folks now who had actually moved to urban areas, or rather who had moved to rural areas, move back to urban areas. But we're going to talk about how those numbers changed and how they impacted various counties in California and the state. So the overview of this presentation is going to talk about how migration impacted California's economy. We're going to focus on GDP, which is economic growth. We're going to focus on personal income. Then we'll look at how or whether there were new businesses formed or new business applications at the state level and at different counties. And then we're going to focus on Kern County and look at, in fact, where people came from in Kern County and where they moved from. And finally, look at one of the things that we have a strength in, which is our housing market. So if you were to look at this slide right here, this shows you the change in population between 2020 and 2023. So in those 3 years, California lost about 500,000 individuals in terms of net migration. So remember, with net migration, there are people moving into the state and there are people leaving, but overall, we lost about 500,000 people in the whole state. At the county level, LA, which has about 10 million individuals, lost about 300,000 folks, while San Francisco, Alameda, and Santa Clara lost those numbers that you're able to see at the screen. Now, this slide right here kind of shows you how these numbers were changing over time. So between the 2020 and 2021 period, California lost about 358,000 individuals. But in the year that followed, the state lost about 104,000 people. And then in 2021 to 2022, that number dropped to a much smaller number. So the rate at which the population has been declining has been falling. So these slides here, all they show you is that in those 5 counties where we saw a decrease in population, the rate at which people have been living has actually declined, which is why you see a graph right there. San Francisco, which is on the extreme top right, shows you that although the state or the county actually lost about 58,000 people in the first year and then lost about 10,000, in the year that followed, we actually saw an increase in people moving into San Francisco. So looking at population increase or looking at net migration, we actually saw an increase in individuals moving into these counties. So Riverside County, for example, gained about 70,000 individuals in the last 3 years. San Joaquin Plaza, and you can see Kern County gained about 8,000 individuals. I'm going to show you a graph which pretty much looks like the previous one, and this actually just shows you that the number of people moving into these counties, or the net individuals moving into these counties, has actually been declining. So in the first year, for example, Kern County gained about 6,000 individuals. In the second year, we gained about 4,800 individuals. But in the third year, which is actually last year, we lost about 3,000 folks. That's why you see the little red blob right there on the graphs. These graphs here shows you the top 5 counties where we saw an increase in population. So one thing we need to remember is this. When we talk about population growth, or when we talk about changes in population, there are a couple of things that are happening. There are births, you have deaths, and then you also have folks moving in and folks moving out of a county or out of a region. And when talking about moving, people move for various reasons, right? You can have macro factors, which are reasons beyond the control of the individual. So here you might find individuals moving because of jobs, or they're moving because you have natural disasters, or just age. Folks may decide to move and retire to other places. You also have, on all the way at the bottom, you have micro reasons for individuals moving, which, for example, someone may decide to follow a spouse to a different region, and that is why we have those micro factors. The meso factors are a combination of the macro and the micro. So just have that in mind as we talk about population changes. There are very many reasons why people move from one place to another. So the takeaways, at least from the first couple of slides, is that urban to rural migration that occurred during the pandemic has slowed down. In fact, we're almost seeing the reverse, where we're seeing people moving from rural areas back into urban areas based off of what we've seen from the last couple of slides. In San Francisco lost individuals, lost about 60,000 individuals in the first 2 years after the pandemic, but in the year that followed, the population actually grew. So people were moving, possibly moving back. And in Kern County, we saw the reverse, where we saw an influx of individuals in the first 2 years after the pandemic, and then in the 2023 period, we saw a group of people moving out, which is about 3,000 individuals. So let's look at a couple of things. So people moved in or people left, or population increased or population decreased. So what? Did the economy grow? Were people wealthier? Did we see an increase in business applications? So in the slide that we see here, the group of counties on the left shows you the counties with population losses or population declines, and the table on the right shows you the counties with population gains. And you look at average GDP growth in all those two sets of counties. On the left, you'll find that on average, LA, San Francisco, Alameda, Santa Clara, and Orange counties gained. Their GDP, their economy grew, right? Despite losing individuals, their economy grew, while the counties on your right side of the screen shows you counties with population gains. And although these counties also saw gains, we saw some regions actually grow economically and others had negative growth. That's what we see in terms of economic development. What about personal income? Per capita personal income, counties that saw a decline in people who live there actually witnessed a growth in the personal income per capita. Now, I know many of us are thinking, yes, the counties that actually witnessed a decline in population are the ones that are located at the coastal part of California. So it's expected the per capita income for those groups of people will be higher than those of the people in the inland areas, which saw an increase in population, or the table that you see on your right side. So counties that are witnessing or witnessed a growth in population actually had lesser per capita income growth compared to those that saw a decline in people living there. Let's look at new business applications. Interestingly, the counties that saw an increase in the population had more business applications per capita. So we see more people applying for businesses or new businesses growing in the regions that actually saw losses in population in comparison to those that saw gains. And as you can see there, Kern County saw about a 21% increase in the number of new business applications over the 2020 to 2022 period. And that also occurs, and you can see San Joaquin County as well, which has been bolded there, so about a 30% increase in new business applications. The graph or the table or the slide that actually follows shows you a couple of things. If you were to look at all 58 counties and you were to focus on how population changed, for example, let's start off with the figure on the extreme left. That graph or that figure or that schematic or that image shows you where we saw an increase in population. The dark brown means we saw an increase in population. The light brown slanting towards the yellow shows you a decrease in population or less population growth. What you'll notice is that population growth in the inland part of the county was much higher than the population growth in the region right around the coast. With regards to GDP, coastal regions' economic development grew faster than the inland counties. Same with income per capita. But in terms of new businesses, we see a number of new businesses, or the number of new businesses within the inland part of the county state being higher than that towards the ocean. So let's talk about Kern County, okay? And in terms of Kern County, all we're trying to do here is to look at two periods. Now remember, we're talking about the post-pandemic period. So we're looking at the 2020 to 2021, 2021 to 2022, and say, where did we have a good year and where did we have a not good year, okay? I don't like to say bad because it's not bad. It's, you know, we learn from a lot of these things. So in terms of GDP, between 2020 and 2021, the economy did not grow as fast, but income per capita grew and the number of new businesses actually increased by 27%, which is pretty good. The year that followed, things were not too good because we saw less businesses, lower income growth, and the economy also declined at a higher rate. In terms of net migration, the 3 years that we talked about, as I said, the 2020 to 2021, we saw about 7,000 additional individuals living in Kern County. And then the year that followed, we saw about 4,000. So about 11,000 combined. But then in the 2022 to 2023 region or period, we saw a decline of about 3,000 individuals. Question is, where? Where are the new residents coming from? There has been a lot of talk on this. And we can track these numbers. So if you were to look at this slide here, for example, this slide here talks about change of address. My name is Nyakundi Micheka. In 2013, I lived in Morgantown, West Virginia. My zip code at the time was 26505, and I filed my taxes. In the year that followed, I moved to Bakersfield, California. My zip code was 93311, and I filed my taxes. The fact that I filed my taxes in 2 separate years and the IRS recorded that means that they have records of one individual moving from one zip code to another, and they can track where that person came from. So what we could do is we can look at Kern County and track how many people came from wherever they came from and actually total those numbers. So this slide right here shows you between 1990 and 2021, about 30 years, we had about 200,000 individuals actually moving from LA if you were to total the number of people and track where they came from. And that number you can see, Tulare, Ventura had a lot of big numbers. But interestingly enough, we also see a large population from the foreign or overseas regions which moved into Kern County. Then we can also track where they live. So where are people going? When people leave Kern County, where do they go? We use the same IRS data, and you find that a lot of folks, again, moved to LA. So LA, there's a lot of people moving from LA, coming in and moving out. And interestingly enough, if you were to look at this, a lot of folks go to Tulare, San Diego, but Clark County, Nevada, right, is a big recipient of residents from Kern County. It's always important to remember, as people move into a county, there are people moving out of a county. So this slide here shows you the total inflow of individuals moving into Kern County by year. Between 2020 and 2021, we had about 28,000 folks move in, but in that year, we had about 27,000 folks move out. So there's traffic moving in both directions, which is what we're trying to show here. So next question is housing. So we have comparative advantage in providing affordable housing for residents who live in California. How's the housing market doing? Well, if you were to look at data for January 2024, in terms of affordability, Kern County's median home price is still the lowest relative to our 8 neighbors. Well, actually, I wouldn't say lowest because Kings County and Tulare County have lower medium priced homes compared to us. But you can see what the numbers look like. So we're still an affordable place to purchase a home. In terms of home prices, if you were to compare California and you were to compare Kern County, which is what we see on the slide that follows, you'll see that there's a blue line that shows the median home price increase in California and compare that number with Kern County. The bigger the gap, the better it is because the cheaper the houses are relative to the average price of homes in California. So that gap has actually been increasing. And this graph here, which comes now shows you the median sales, or the number, actually not median, but the number of sales we've had year to year. So you'll notice that in 2009, we had a lot of sales take place. In 2021, we also had a lot of sales. Blue line means California, red line means Kern County. So there's very commonality in the way these two series have been moving. But the last 1 year, we saw a decline in houses. Finally, the days on market. If you were to put your house on the market, it takes on average about 20 days for your house to be on the market and get sold in Kern County compared to 24 days in California. This graph right here just shows you how long it takes for you to sell your house. The darker the area, the longer it takes for you to sell your home. So we're selling homes faster here in Kern County. To end this presentation, this conclusion slide is pretty much the first slide that I showed, only this time it has answers. So how did population change impact California counties? Well, GDP increased in the coastal counties, okay? That's expected because those are the wealthier counties. And personal income as well also increased. But if you have to look at new business formation, the counties in the inland part of the state, or the counties which actually have an increase in population, saw higher business formation or business applications. And then in terms of migration, many of us are moving to Kern County. A lot of folks who are moving from LA are moving into Kern County. So those numbers and those things that we hear people say a lot are true. And then finally, Kern County is still affordable. Thank you so much for sitting through this presentation. I hope you have a fantastic Friday, or actually, well, it's a Saturday. I hope you have a fantastic Saturday night. And it's my pleasure to have been a presenter at this Kern County Economic Summit. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Richard Chapman, President and CEO of the Kern Economic Development Corporation, and I'm very happy to have today three esteemed panelists representing the aerospace and defense industry. And the aerospace defense industry is one of our fastest growing sectors, one of the highest paying in terms of wages, multipliers, and it's estimated we have about 25,000 jobs in the industry in Kern County. And we often say that we power the world, feed the world, and defend the world. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Hello, I'm Harlan Koima, Director of Research and Development at the Naval Air Warfare Center Weapons Division, located at China Lake, California, way on the eastern border of Kern County.
Great, thanks for making the trip.
Hello, I'm Colonel Ahab E. Brown, Jr., 412th Maintenance Group Commander at Edwards Air Force Base.
Welcome.
I'm Aaron Cassibier, Chief Product Officer at Stratolaunch.
Great. Well, we're excited to have a discussion about the current state of the state in terms of aerospace defense and where we're headed. And you all are basically part of a significant economic engine for our region. So thank you for being part of this discussion. As I often talk about the importance of the industry and East Kern, of course, you all are in East Kern. Our organization actually created the East Kern Economic Alliance, so critical part is the work you do every day. So Harlan, if you could talk about your organization and as well as the role you play.
Yes, so the Naval Air Warfare Center Weapons Division, we just call it NOCWD.
Okay.
So we're located in China Lake, California. It is the largest land holding that the Navy has in the world. We have an economic impact of about $1.4 billion annually. We have over 10,000 employees, direct and indirect, and it has a payroll of just approaching $550 million. And that is a consistent number, slightly growing as we're moving into the future.
And we often promote China Lake as creating 50 of the world's first. So give me some examples. I know the glow stick.
Yeah, the glow stick is a classic.
Okay, we have a music festival coming up, so that's applicable. What are some of the other inventions? GPS, airbag?
Yeah, so some of the things that are like defense industry related, first guided missile that was launched from airplanes. We also had the development of smart bombs. So if you remember back in Desert Storm 1 and smart bombs became a thing, that came out of China Lake. Other things that have come out of China Lake had to do with targeting systems that are still used today. We're heavily into providing capabilities for special forces when it comes to being able to detect and target enemy locations. And those are things that are directly impacting how we keep the world safe.
Well, I was going to ask you what's the IQ of a smart bomb, but I'll move forward. And I know the first computer search, not Google search, because Google wasn't.
Google was not a thing yet.
Was at China Lake.
Yeah, was at China Lake, yes.
Well, and we oftentimes talk about Ridgecrest having more PhDs per capita than anywhere in the country. So well, thank you, Harlan. And Colonel Brown, thanks for coming on the show this evening. And we know with Edwards Air Force Base, I have the slogan, Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe, testing tomorrow, war-winning capabilities today. So explain what that means.
Absolutely. On behalf of Colonel Douglas Wickard, who is the wing commander, As the maintenance group commander there, we are doing all of these first and making opportunities available for all Americans. When we sit back and look at the fact that we are the United States Air Force, we belong to the entire country, and we're here for defense, employing just at Edwards over 11,000 individuals who are committed to excellence and desiring to do their best. Recognizing that we're at the center of the aerospace testing universe, that means to us that everything must be tested. We want to ensure that the warfighter has everything that she or he needs on the battlefield. Thus, every munition, aircraft, and all of the substantive parts that go along with it must be maintained and must be ensured that they perform in the manner to in which that not only are we accustomed to, but the manner that is necessary for war-winning capability. There's no secret that when we look at how we perform at Edwards Air Force Base, from 3D printing to working on the venerable B-52 that's over 70 years old, we must ensure that we are compliant, innovative, and that we're embracing technology with our industry partners, contractors, military and civilian professionals. Again, I thank you for this evening's time and the opportunity just to sit and talk with you.
Well, and Colonel Brown, is am I correct? It's the second largest Edwards Air Force Base in the country?
Absolutely,
Okay.
you are most correct,
Okay.
with over 308,000 acres. If you were to try to put a fence around us, it would be similar to putting a fence around Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And we're excited about being in Kern County, and we've been here since 1933 when Muroc Field was actually formed. So the technology and innovation will continue, and we will continue to make sure that all Americans know that their Air Force is on the cutting edge of all the things that are going on in and surrounding aviation.
And we're fortunate to have you in Kern County. So thank you for joining us. And then last but certainly not least, Aaron Casabear with the Stratolaunch Company. So I know enough to be dangerous. The world's largest airplane is being built in Mojave. Your company is building. And then also 348 feet, what wingspan?
385.
Oh, I was, okay. Talk about I know your company in terms of the hypersonic ecosystem. Explain the work you do and the importance of Stratolaunch.
So Stratolaunch is a hypersonic flight test services company. So what we do is we design, manufacture, and flight test vehicles that fly in excess of Mach 5, so we're talking 3,000 miles an hour. And that capability is something that the country sorely needs. And our customers are anxious and desperate to gain access to that flight environment. And so that service is very valuable to them. We're headquartered in Mojave, California, at the Mojave Air and Spaceport. We're very proud to be a part of Kern County, and of course the rich heritage that all of us on this panel share as a part of the broader aerospace Antelope Valley community.
And you have 400 employees currently?
We do. 400 employees, half of which live in Kern County.
Great. Well, I'll circle back on the TA-1. I'm very interested recent developments earlier in this year. But let's start with you, Aaron, and the second question. What is your leadership role? I know that you're Chief Product Officer.
Yeah, what does that mean?
CPO.
Yeah, good one.
Explain your day-to-day and your leadership role with Stratolaunch.
Absolutely. So I'm responsible for program management, engineering, and manufacturing of all of the vehicles that we design and develop in Mojave, and of course contributing towards the flight test of those vehicles.
And explain in March of 2024 what occurred, what milestone event occurred.
So Stratolaunch in March had a huge flight test event. We launched out over the Western Range our first powered flight of the Talon A1 vehicle. We dropped it from about 22,000 feet from our rock carrier aircraft. We lit the engine and we accelerated to high supersonic speeds and achieved an incredible first flight, both for our company and for our customers. And we're anxiously, feverishly working towards developing a reusable hypersonic flight test capability, which means not only can we fly Mach 5, but also we can come back and we can land that vehicle successfully and reusably.
Great, well, thank you. I know we'll be talking a lot about Mach, and actually Mach 1 was achieved at NASA, Armstrong Flight Research Labs in Kern County, correct, Colonel?
Absolutely, and we're very proud of
Yes.
that, and now we have renamed the corridor right after that, and that was recently done just last year. When we sit back and take a look at all of the things that we do, we also pride ourselves on first, from aircraft such as the SR-71 and 117 stealth fighter, but there are many technologies that we're looking at today because we recognize that as aircraft progress, T-38 being one of the older aircraft, the aircraft T-7 is coming online. So we're delighted to have the opportunity to test and have that aircraft prepared for the future. But we also look at the fact that from the maintenance group, I have 1,800 hard chargers in about 13 different locations where the 412 test wing resides. Because there are multiple different types of tests that need to be performed, from the technical data to the machine learning to AI, we have all of those functions. We're also excited about the fact that we have the Air Force's only test and Space Force school right there on Edwards Air Force Base. This also provides us the opportunity to test that AI and machine learning, where we have the opportunity to pit manned aircraft against AI functions. This is just revolutionary for us. It also speaks to the fact that when we encounter some of the young folks who desire to be a part of the United States Air Force, we can let them know that the things that they're going to put their hands on, the things that they're going to put their minds to, are not only shaping the battlefield of today, but it's also shaping the battlefield of tomorrow.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't qualify. My SAT score in math was underwhelming. And I know, again, the first space shuttle landed in Edwards, correct?
Absolutely.
Colonel, tell about your leadership role with the 412.
From my leadership standpoint, and again, with 1,800 individuals operating at Edwards Air Force Base, when it comes down to 3D printing, when it comes down to the folks who are fixing the airplanes, getting them prepared, ready to go, we have a delicate balance between compliance and innovation. We recognize that we must be compliant. If it says 4 bolts and safety wire, we need to have 4 bolts and safety wire. But at the same time, we're also looking at new ways to do things. We recognize that a lot of the AI platforms can help us do a lot of the things that used to take a lot of manual labor. So we have brought those cutting edge technologies into the maintenance sphere to ensure that the aircraft is ready to go when pilots are ready to use them, whether they are manned aircraft or aircraft that are remotely operated. We want to make sure that takeoffs equal landings every day. So I have the privilege and honor of actually leading all of those good folks and proud to serve with them.
Wow, well, thank you for all that you do. Harlan, I know that you mentioned you came to Ridgecrest in 1990 and never looked back, right? So what is your role?
So I'm the Director of Research and Development. What that encompasses is we have basic and applied research. We have scientists exploring new capabilities and materials, energetic components, chemical discoveries that are happening all the time. We have held the record for quantum computing for a while. We've since lost that, but hard at work to gain that one back again. The other thing that then after we do a basic applied research, we always do it with a purpose in mind. Where is it going to go? How is it going to fit into the mission that we have to support the warfighter and give them capabilities that they will use in combat to protect our nation? The engineering capabilities that we have over right at about 49% of the 10,000 employees are engineers. And they bring life to these capabilities and components that have to come together and work together. We do development, where we start with ideas and turn them into reality, and then also test. We have a very large test activity with our land ranges. We have electronic warfare ranges, and we take the real systems through their paces so that they will operate as they need to when they're actually in combat. The capabilities, though, continue to mature and grow. Modeling and simulation is one of these technologies that is just really growing at a pace that we're having a hard time keeping up with. So we're constantly looking for new talent, more talent coming out of the universities, coming out of other industries that can apply their skills in a meaningful way for something that is important to our nation and the world. The technologies that we currently are working on have to do with sensors, long-range sensors, and then that also comes into, we got to have long-range weapons. When we start looking at capabilities that our adversaries are working on, we have to stay ahead and outpace them. And it's challenging every day.
Yeah, that's...
The workforce continues to come in.
Yep.
They're motivated, and they make a difference today for what the warfighter needs.
Right, it's workforce is critical. Talent retention, talent recruitment. You can't grow without the talent pipeline, so thank you all for your significant role in helping to lead that charge. So why don't we, and I've had the privilege actually of touring the labs at China Lake as well as Edwards, visiting Edwards Air Force Base and Stratolaunch. But let's, as we wrap things up, we'll start with you, Harlan. We talked today about how your organizations move the needle, but what does the future hold? And in 30 seconds or less, tell us what to expect.
So for China Lake, the future is really bright. We are growing. We have more new orders coming in from our sponsors and customers, and it's a challenge for us to keep up the pace. So we are actively recruiting the best and the brightest in all disciplines. We need business professionals.
Yep.
We obviously need scientist and engineer capability, but the future is bright. We are on the cutting edge of what the nation needs.
And how would they find out more about what is your website or TikTok?
Yeah, so not TikTok, okay. But we do have a website. You can just NAWCWD, and it will pull up our homepage. And from there, you will find links on how to get more information, how to contact us, and how to really make a difference with your career.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Harlan. And Colonel Brown, what should we expect in the near to distant future?
Well, first and foremost, you can expect that your United States Air Force is going to be ready and prepared to deter aggression, to ensure that our country remains safe. Because we have a dynamic and diverse workforce that is made up of America's national treasure, its sons and daughters. These are the folks who are going to bring that creativity, whether it's for hypersonics, whether it's for older aircraft that we have in the inventory, whether it's for parts and machinery. We will be ready to execute with all of the things that we've been given. We acknowledge the fact that we understand that troubling times and what's coming over the horizon may not be known to us, but we've been given a clear-cut direction and course by the President of the United States, and we will be prepared and ready to execute that with all of our industry partners, our contractors, our civilians, and military members. We have a constant flow of new folks coming in the door who are bringing excitement and innovation. And at the same time, we're ready to execute with all of the Air Force air power that we have, and working in concert with AFRL, our teammates at Palmdale, and all of our fellow partners in the local region. Too many to name for a truth, but we're excited about what the future holds. All I can say is be prepared, and we're ready to execute. We will always do what's necessary, and we will be ensuring that America remains safe every day is game day. That's my philosophy, and we're going to continue to do what needs to be done. Thank you.
Thanks, Colonel. Well, I can sleep much better at night after hearing today about how we're going to protect and defend ourselves, and frankly, Kern County's critical role
absolutely
in that realm. And then, Aaron, talk about Stratolaunch, still the world's largest plane as of today. What do we expect from you in 2024?
Yeah,
2025.
I'm going to echo what the other panelists said as well. You know, the need for hypersonic flight test is only growing. And our future is quite bright at Stratolaunch. And so we need skilled and knowledgeable engineers, craftsmen, technicians, people who like to build things, work with their hands. And we are growing the foundation of hypersonic flight test and building that capability. It's something that the country has ebbed and flowed over the previous decades with how much focus is put on it. But the need is clear and present, and we, all of us, all of the panelists here, we actually are all in this together, working together towards a common goal. And the future is bright. We need this now, and we're very much, I think, all in this together, looking forward to being successful.
I think there's a song, "The future is so bright, you gotta wear shades." So thank you for calling Kern County home, and thank you all for your leadership role in Kern County's aerospace and defense industry and leading the charge. And hope you have a wonderful evening.
What are we here for? We heal hearts so you can love more. We fight cancer so you can experience more. We use leading technology so you can connect more. Here, we've assembled world-class medical expertise to help you reach everything you were made for. Adventist Health. More starts here.
Bounced from one doctor to the next. Did they even send my lab work? Wait, was I supposed to bring that? Then there's the forms, the bills, the nota bills, the... Press forward and repeat these options.
Healthcare can get a whole lot easier when your medical records, care, and coverage are in one place. At Kaiser Permanente, all of us work together for all that is you.
Good evening, Kern County. My name is Dr. Richard Gerhardt. I'm an associate professor of economics at CSU Bakersfield, and tonight I want to talk about the minimum wage's impact in Kern County and talk about some income forecasts that we'll see in the near future. And so, as we know, in April 1st of this year, the fast food minimum wage was increased to $20 an hour. And this covers 60 national chains and excludes a number of restaurants that are located in convention centers, airports, and other places. And the biggest impacts of this minimum wage increase will of course be in cities or counties that do not have a local minimum wage that is higher than the old one, which is $16 an hour, which means that Kern County will be disproportionately impacted by this legislative dictate from Sacramento. And so a little bit of background on the minimum wage and what we think should happen. We know that fast food restaurants with this minimum wage increase will increase the wages of all employees, including managers, and that includes everyone who has earned more than the minimum wage. We expect something called full price pass-through, and this is how businesses put the costs of these labor increases onto consumers. We expect hamburger prices to increase by about 22.5%. So that $7 Whopper meal that you buy every Tuesday will now be about $8.50. Pizza prices will increase by about 10%. So that $10 Domino's pizza will be about $11. And interestingly, chicken products will see minimal price increases of about 5%. We know that there are going to be significant hours significant reductions in the number of hours worked, especially for the less experienced workers. Those tend to be the younger workers or the workers without a high school degree. We know that workers who earn the minimum wage, who will earn this $20 an hour now, will experience less job turnover. They won't want to leave these jobs for other retail sector jobs or other similar jobs that would pay less. The older minimum wage is $16. We should expect employment in general to fall by about 5%, but the biggest impact is on what economists call the intensive margin, the number of hours worked. We expect a nearly 20% decrease in hours worked for fast food employees. What this means is that a lot of employees will go from full-time 40 hours per week to part-time 31 hours per week, and that is dramatic. Most of these negative impacts of the minimum wage increase are limited to direct labor market impacts, but we know that there are some benefits to minimum wage hikes. We know that there's reductions in the probability of recidivism, of people going back to prison after they have been out of prison. There are reductions in property and drug crime rates, which are important in a community that is trying to foster a sense of self and community. And we also note that minimum wages reduce suicides and improve diets, which is important in Kern County. Although with higher disposable income, we note that smoking and drinking rates will increase, with all of those commensurate negative economic impacts. Children of parents who earn the minimum wage, especially age 0 to 5, will benefit by being able to spend more time with their parents, but also having more resources that their parents can inject into their educational outcomes. And importantly, we know that there is going to be increased adoption of labor replacing technology. While we shouldn't expect automation and touch screens to replace fast food workers immediately, over the course of several years, these technological alternatives will become much more attractive to businesses as they grapple with higher labor costs. And lastly, and certainly not the least important, there are considerable spillovers in other sectors other than fast food. Between 2013 and 2023, in the state of California, the minimum wage increased from $8 per hour to $16 per hour. And so let's just do this top-level look at what happened to wages and employment in the fast food and the restaurant sector. And so on this slide, what do we see? Well, in 2013, fast food cooks earned $8.90 an hour. Remember, the minimum wage was $8. So that is a actually significant wage premium above what they were earning. Fast food counter workers in 2013 earned $9.42 an hour. Cooks in restaurants earn $10.73 an hour. So even with an $8 statutory minimum wage, what happened was these workers earned a lot more than what the minimum wage was. Compare this to 2023. In 2023, where the minimum wage was $16, fast food cooks now only earned 9 cents above the minimum wage. Fast food counter workers now are only earned 22 cents over the minimum wage. And so the importance of this is that businesses cannot absorb, especially here in Kern County, these higher labor costs. But notice employment between 2013 and 2023. Employment actually rose. That is something that we need to investigate. We need to investigate what is going to be the impact of this 25% wage hike for fast food workers exclusively here in Kern County. What employment would have been without the minimum wage hike is going to be higher than what employment actually is. We know that there are going to be significant reductions in wage premiums, which is how much above the minimum wage workers are paid. So we know that something called wage compression is going to happen. And wage compression is just when the lowest paid workers are paid about the same as the highest paid workers. And this can be both good, it reduces income inequality, but bad, because it reduces the likelihood that individuals want to invest in skills, training, and education to earn these higher wages. So again, what we now want to do is we want to investigate the wage and employment impacts of this $20 fast food minimum wage in directly impacted industries, but also the wage impact in indirectly impacted industries. So the first graph that we have is fast food cooks. And those top two lines, that blue line and those green line, are what employment would be if the state of California had not passed a $20 per hour minimum wage. What we see is that in both California and Kern County, fast food employment would have continued to climb. But our focus today is going to be on those two bottom lines, that red line and that black line. And that is what employment for fast food cooks will be with this $20 per hour minimum wage. And what we see is that there are significant and permanent reductions in fast food employment, especially for cooks, due to this $20 per hour minimum wage. Because of our relatively lower cost of living, this reduction in employment in Kern County is permanent. That is not the case for the state of California. So we have some significantly detrimental impacts in the fast food sector, where close to 400 workers are losing their jobs. Well, here are the wages for fast food cooks. That black dotted line is what happens to wages with the $20 per hour minimum wage. And notice that with this wage increase, with this minimum wage legislation, wages for fast food cooks won't change until 2031. There will be no incentive on the part of businesses to grow wages at all. The blue line represents what fast food cooks would have earned had the state not passed this minimum wage legislation. And notice they would have seen continued wage growth and by 2030 would have earned more money than what they currently will with the $20 per hour minimum wage. So the minimum wage depresses long-term earnings for these workers. We can do the same analysis for fast food counter workers. Again, what we see is that here in Kern County, that black line that goes down, there is going to be a permanent reduction in fast food counter workers from the minimum wage legislation because, again, we are a relatively lower cost of living area. Employment rebounds in the state of California as a whole. Again, in part because workers naturally get paid more and the impact of $20 per hour is much lower. We can do the same thing for wages here for fast food counter workers, where again what we see is that after the minimum wage legislation, fast food counter workers do not see a wage increase until 2030. But again, if fast food counter workers had not received this minimum wage legislation, that blue line, by 2031, they would have been better off and had permanently higher income. Well, we know there's going to be spillovers. If I'm earning $20 an hour as a cook at a fast food restaurant, why would I choose to work in a small mom and pop restaurant that might be paying me $16, $17, $18 an hour? And so what we should expect to happen is, again, these restaurant cooks are going to choose to move and migrate to the fast food sector to take advantage of these higher wages. And so there are going to be two negative employment effects from minimum wage legislation in similar industries. For restaurants, they are not only going to have to pay cooks more to maintain their best employees, to maintain and attract the best workers that they have, which increases their labor costs, which means they can't hire as many people. But also, individuals who are cooks will not choose to take a restaurant job right off the bat. They will choose to wait to see if they can get a better offer at a fast food restaurant rather than earn slightly lower money in the restaurant sector. And we see this in the wage impacts. Again, this blue bottom line is what wages would have been for restaurant cooks had there been no minimum wage legislation. That top black line represents the accelerated wage growth that restaurant cooks will see, which will benefit individuals in this sector, but will hurt the individual owners, the individual proprietors, those small mom and pop locations who are now paying close to $4 an hour more per worker than what they would have. Same analysis for waiters and waitresses. Waiters and waitresses are the restaurant equivalent to the fast food counter workers. And again, what we see is that employment here in Kern County becomes permanently depressed. People will choose to wait for these fast food jobs because they can earn more money per hour. And again, all this does to the small restaurants, those small local mom and pop restaurants that form the backbone of the dining experience here in Kern County, will be forced to pay permanently higher wages to all of their employees because we have decided to increase the minimum wage for the entirety of one sector here in California. Well, let's look at other indirectly impacted industries. These are industries where workers have similar skill sets or similar educational profiles. Cashiers. What will happen with cashiers? Well, to prevent the flight of cashiers from your favorite retail store or a grocery store to the fast food sector, we are going to have to increase their wages to the fact where grocery stores, retail shops, everyone is going to be paying about $3 more per hour. Same thing happens with retail sales. These are individuals who stock the shelves in the retail stores, who make sure that the product is on the shelves. And again, what we see is permanently higher labor costs, in part because there is no more ability for these retail shops to retain their most productive, their best employees when they are at a wage disadvantage to the fast food sector. But notice something important. Notice after 2030, that black line doesn't really change. That's automation, that's technological adoption. That is the negative consequences of relatively rapid mandated government wage growth, where retail sales are a prime target for automating the supply chain and automating the shopping experience. If you look at stockers, these are people that work behind the scenes in the back rooms. And again, we see the same thing, but since stockers tend to have jobs that are much more easily automated, notice that there is almost no wage growth after this jump up in pay. And in fact, by 2035, stockers would have been better off not seeing this minimum wage legislative increase. They wouldn't have lost their jobs. Beyond the minimum wage, I want to talk about income in Kern County. And we know that income takes the form of three principal components. And this is average annual income from wages. This is your salary. We know that an important component of income is also the value of your non-wage benefits, your health insurance, pension contributions, payroll taxes. But then there's an important third component for some of us here in Kern County, and that is entrepreneurial profits, entrepreneurial income. So we want to look at how these have changed over time, how they will change over time, and we're going to compare to our neighbor to the north, Fresno County, and see if we have a comparative advantage. So here is average annual income in wages compared between Kern County, which is our red line, and Fresno County, which is the blue line. In the 1960s, the average annual salary for a worker in Fresno County was about equivalent to the average annual salary for a worker in Kern County. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, since 2020, these wages have continued to diverge, where Kern County worker now earns about $7,000 more per year than an equivalent worker in Fresno County. In fact, by 2040, I estimate that the average worker in Kern County will earn $80,000 a year. In a relatively low cost of living area in California, this is suitably and definitely a living wage. But what this also shows is that we have a comparative advantage to Fresno County. We can offer higher wages. We can offer better amenities. We can offer the highly educated, the highly skilled to come to our county. Well, let's see. And if you look at the value of non-wage benefits, we see similar trends to the point where by 2040, Kern County residents will have about $4,000 more per year in non-wage benefits than Fresno County. And this is important for attracting highly skilled individuals who want to start families. The value of non-wage benefits, especially pension and health insurance, is an incredibly attractive enticement to bring individuals from other parts of the country to Kern County to backfill any labor shortages we might see. If we move to average annual entrepreneurial profits, notice that since the COVID-19 pandemic and up until 2040, Fresno County actually has higher entrepreneurial profits than here in Kern County. So that's something that we need to explore a little bit. Why are entrepreneurs earning a little bit more in Fresno County than in Kern County? But something to note, again, is if you look by 2040, entrepreneurs on average, this is all entrepreneurs in Kern County, everyone who owns a small mom and pop business, are earning profits of $60,000 a year. Profitable businesses, profitable small businesses, are the economic engine of any region in an economy. $60,000 a year of profit is certainly a good place to start a business. But again, why are profits in Fresno higher than in Kern? And the last slide that I would like to show is the percent of individuals who are considered self-employed. Notice that in 1969, 1 in 8 Kern County residents were self-employed. It was close to 1 in 5 in Fresno County. By 2040, we will have a permanent advantage in the number of people who are considered self-employed. So why are profits lower in Kern County than in Fresno County? We have more entrepreneurs, and they're just as successful. It's supply and demand. We are doing a phenomenal job not only growing our domestic economy, but diversifying to be able to survive whatever is thrown at us in the next 10 to 20 years. I hope that you have a great evening and a great rest of your weekend, and I hope you enjoy the 2024 Kern Economic Summit.
Hello, I'm Dr. Aaron Hegde, Professor of Economics, Executive Director of the Grimm Family Center for Agriculture Business at Cal State Bakersfield. Today, I'll give you an overview of agriculture in Kern County, and then later on, I will bring on a couple of guests for an executive chat about the state of agriculture. Along with me will be Jenny Holterman and Zach Lafitte. So some stats to start with. For the crop year 2022 is the last year that we have for the agricultural output in Kern County, and it was $7.7 billion. So the ag industry in Kern County is almost an $8 billion industry. However, that was a 7% decline from 2021. The top 5 commodities in Kern County are grapes, citrus, milk, almonds, and pistachios. As you can see, the output or the value of the output for grapes, citrus, almonds, and pistachios dramatically decreased compared to 2021. However, we saw an increase in the output of milk. So the planted acreage for grapes and citrus have increased in the last year. The acreage, however, for almonds and pistachios have decreased in the last year. A big part of it has to do with water. As farmers decide which crops to plant, which crops to remove, a lot of it depends on the water availability. So later in our executive chat, we'll address some of those concerns with water as well as with Sigma. So here's a little profile of Kern County agriculture. There are approximately 44,000 people that work in the agriculture sector, which is about 13% of the total jobs. So every 10% decline in the output for agriculture results in an 8% decline in the jobs in agriculture. So over the last year, with the decline in the agriculture output, there were about 4,000 jobs that were lost in agriculture. So when you look at the farms, about 45% of the farms have sales that are less than 100,000. So these are what we call smaller farms. 80% of the farms are less than 1,000 acres. When you also look at the farms. 85% are owned by families, what we call family farms. And about half of the farms hire farm labor. Approximately 4% of the farms also sell directly to consumers. The rest go through processors and to wholesalers and things like that. 34% of the farmland is irrigated. The rest of the farmland is pasture land and things like that, so it's not necessarily irrigated. When you look at the real estate value for farms, it has increased about 3% between 2023 and 2022. One other important aspect in agriculture is water. About a decade ago, California passed the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which is known as SGMA. It requires local agencies to form groundwater sustainability agencies, or what they call GSAs, and develop and sustain groundwater sustainability plans, or what we call GSPs. The California Department of Water, DWR, is tasked with overseeing the assessment and evaluation of these GSPs. When you look at groundwater, about 40% of all of the state's water is reliant on groundwater, especially in wet years, and that goes up to about 60% during dry years. So, in today's executive chat on state of Kern County agriculture, I'll have two guests with me. First is Jenny Holterman. She's a fourth-generation farmer. She is the president of the Kern County Farm Bureau. She's also the executive director of the Water Association of Kern County. She and her husband, Tim, farm in the Shafter area, and they have a label called Almond Girl, which they sell directly to consumers. Another executive that will be chatting with us is Zach Lafitte. He's the president of Wonderful Citrus. He's also a third-generation ag leader. He has been with Wonderful for about 20 years. Prior to coming to Wonderful, he worked with the Dole Food Company in Honduras, and he's earned an MBA in finance from Tulane, as well as a Bachelor of Science from Cornell University. This session is called an executive chat with a couple of people from the agriculture industry. And along with me here are Jenny Holterman, president of the Kern County Farm Bureau, and Zach Lafitte, president of Wonderful Citrus. So welcome.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So I thought we would start with a hot topic, which is water, SGMA. So what do you think SGMA will have, what kind of impact will it have on your business in agriculture, like a larger ag business, as well as a farmer? So Zach, do you want to start?
SGMA is really forcing us to reevaluate the sustainability of properties in different locations. Having dual sources of water is a must, given now we're probably going to suffer some form of restriction both on groundwater pumping and on surface water, depending on the type of winter we have. We've planted everywhere where we've been able to do so successfully as an industry, but I do see that now some of those areas will no longer be viable. We've heard numbers as large as 1 million acres across California to be removed as a result of SGMA. Not quite sure how that trickles down to Kern County, but we certainly feel that anybody who's well diversified in plantings will have some form of impact in terms of acreage reduction.
Okay. How about for the smaller family farm, Jenny?
So the studies that I've read have said that we will have roughly about 250,000 acres out of production in Kern County alone after SGMA goes into full effect. Now we just, I guess, celebrated the 10-year anniversary of SGMA passing, so we've had some time to prepare, and of course we're going through the plans process now of how that's going to impact us. But essentially we're going to have a lot of fallowed acres, or acres put out of production, and now have to find an alternative use for those acres. So it really makes a farmer assess where their land is, maybe what water districts they have property in, and how that aligns with our sources of water and where we are getting water from and what's more reliable than others. So you might see, you know, some areas of Kern County have less production than others based off of those availability. But at the end of the day, farmers are going to have to make that decision of we're going to have to fallow acres, and where's that going to be? And maybe we're switching up our planting and putting something else in the ground that makes it more productive.
So do you think that it would have an impact on the income for the average farmer?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we're going to be farming less than we do now. We might have to have the same amount of acreage to be able to maybe move water to some ground that is more able to be farmed, but we will have less production, and less production will at the end of the day be less income, and not just for farmers but also for our support businesses. It will be spending less money. Agriculture will have a much different outlook in Kern County.
How about Zach? What impact will it have on some of the larger ag companies that we know that we have here in Kern County?
Well, besides what Jenny's already mentioned, you start to rationalize what crops you grow on areas that actually have a reliable source of water. So lower margin, lower value crops will eventually be substituted for higher margin. So you'll see potentially some of the staples of the Central Valley. On the citrus side, perhaps you'll see Valencia oranges or oranges be replaced by sort of higher margin products. So you see a reshuffling in terms of the commodity in the mix by commodity. That's for certain. That'll take some time as growers make those adjustments, but it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to keep an identical picture of what we have today, as Jenny noted.
So one of the top 5 crops in Kern County are almonds and pistachios. So will that have an impact? Will the water have an impact on how much almonds and pistachios we produce? And if so, you think that'll impact the price?
I think it'll independent of crops, whether you're growing table grapes or citrus or almonds or pistachios. I think 2 factors will come into play is how profitable the crops are. Certainly if there's less land with dual sources of reliable sources of water, you're not want to grow crops that lose money. So you'll quickly redevelop those, remove those, and replace them with something different. So there will be changes. I don't necessarily think it has a disproportionate impact to nuts. I do think it really has more of an impact on the profitability of the crop that you're planting.
So Jenny, you have an almond business.
Mm-hmm.
Working with the almond business, what do you think the impact will be on your particular business?
Well, we'll have less almonds in production, not just in Kern County, but across the state of California. And California is the largest almond producing area in the world because we have that unique Mediterranean climate that we can grow them so perfect here, the most efficient and effective way anywhere else in the whole world. So it's going to not put a damper just on us locally, but also across the world. We'll have less almonds to supply and less people will be able to enjoy that product. But I mean, less grown here is definitely going to impact us, and not just from a farming standpoint. We have our hullers are here, almond processors are here, and from large scale to smaller family farms and cooperatives, there's a lot of that trickle down impact that it's not just going to affect the family farmer, but all those other processing as well.
Okay. And so, Zach, obviously you're with citrus, and citrus is also one of the top 5 commodities in Kern County. So what's the citrus market like in the last year or so?
It's quite a difficult journey. I think it's not all that different than some of the other crops. We've seen rapid increases in costs. If you look at orange farming and harvesting costs, between 2004 and 2014, they doubled. They went up 40%, and we've seen that almost double in the last 10 years, between 14 and 2024. So we've had to deal with that. Obviously, consumers don't adjust that quickly to a rise in production, so it's really upon the farmer to really embrace innovation, look at ways of reducing costs, becoming more productive, producing higher quality, and really trying to offset that. It's essentially sort of the same story across all farming, really. Just the increase, especially in the last 5-6 years with logistics ag chemicals have gone up significantly. Obviously, labor has gone up quite a bit. It's these pressures that are really forcing farmers and growers to really think differently about today and also the future.
And it's a good segue into the next thing. So obviously, over centuries, farming has had to evolve, and there's been a lot of innovation. So Jenny, what are the kind of agricultural innovations you're seeing in farming these days?
Oh my goodness, there's a ton. I feel like we have to continually be innovative in what we're doing to be able to survive and to go along with the economy as it's progressing. There's lots of innovation from, irrigation technologies. We can now monitor our irrigation systems and turn on pumps by our cell phones and by our computers. And, whether that we're also looking at, the moisture in the soil with technology, with tensiometers. We now have points of measurement on the tree itself that can measure it as the tree expands and shrinks from irrigation. There's so many different things along with irrigation, but also, our way of harvesting. Our way of harvesting nuts routinely is quite dusty. We're picking up things off the ground, so obviously dust will come along with it. We're looking at innovations with above ground and not having the product even touch the ground at all. The way that we farm is going to be much different in the future than how we farm today, or even how we farmed in the past. We're constantly having to look at different innovative things to progress our business.
And so, from the processing side, Zach, what are the kind of innovations that you've had to adapt to or create to be more competitive?
Yeah, I think there's efficiency and precision, as Jenny noted, are two things that are really driving quite a bit of innovation these days. In the field, obviously, it's efficiency. We have a GUS unmanned or automated robotic sprayer that I basically operated off a laptop, which is really exciting to see. That's probably the most interesting piece. Within the facilities, it's a lot of optical sorting, so replacing sort of human error with more automated ways of grading fruit to provide a consistent quality for your product. Also being able to run your lines faster to gain some efficiency. You're looking at anything that's not a value-added activity, so conveyance or moving a product from point A to point B is not a value-added activity, so you're trying to find ways to automate that, whether it's through just conveyors or some of these robotic forklifts. So constantly trying to revisit that. It's difficult to deconstruct a process that's looked a certain way for decades and try to find an opportunity for automation, so that you fight a little bit of the resistance of it's always been done this way. But I think you see a new generation of leaders within the ag space that really bring that vision, that have really broken through that status quo.
So that kind of brings me to the next thing I was thinking about. With innovation and things, you probably need less labor. So what is the workforce development, or what does the workforce of the future look like in agriculture? What are the kind of skill sets some people would have or need? Jenny?
I think our skill force that we need in agriculture is a very skilled labor. So it's not just what you would think normally as, labor and field labor, but we need a skilled force. So we need people to be able to handle these automated tractors. We need people to be able to handle these systems, these complex things. We have lots of apps on our phone now that figure out how we farm and how we irrigate. So it's more of a skilled labor. When I was younger, we were very pushed to go to college and attend a 4-year university. But nowadays, I feel like we need more children to maybe go to trade schools. And that's going to be the push that we need. We need more of that skilled labor that have, that more expertise of what they're able to accomplish.
So how about you, Zach? What are you seeing in your part of agriculture in terms of the workforce needs and what's going to come ahead?
Maybe I'll speak to some of the facilities, the processing facilities that have gained quite a bit of automation nowadays. Two things happen with that. Sometimes the providers of the technology aren't the best trainers of how to use it and how to get the most benefit. So we're having to invest quite a bit in building those capabilities in-house, learning about the technology and just being able to sort of pass that on, those learnings. What it also does is it creates sort of a higher skilled individual that becomes poachable by outside of ag. So these are operators now that could work at an Amazon facility or any other sort of manufacturing facility. So now you're in greater competition for this skill set. You're likely to suffer some higher turnover. You lose them, so you got to find ways of really training people up a lot faster, and it's difficult to sort of outsource that. So more and more, the more you embrace technology, the more you're going to have to embrace training and being able to develop that workforce and that talent in-house.
So in addition to those kind of skills, are the traditional skills of communication, writing, presenting, critical thinking, are those still relevant? Jenny?
I mean, anytime that we talk about agriculture, it's not just a one-on-one job, So everybody has to be able to communicate because you're dealing with a team of people. Any agriculture company that I can think about, it has lots of employees or lots of managers, and we have to be able to communicate that as well. And sometimes there's a language barrier associated with that as well, so that can add more complexities to it. There's always a need to be able to how you handle your communication skills, those personality traits associated with the different communications. I think that is ever more important than it ever has been.
So what are you seeing, Zach? How about?
Yeah, I would say to complement that, I don't think you lose sight of, even though we're having to build all these skills, you don't lose sight of the core agronomy skills. Right? That's becoming more and more difficult to find. The average farmer is 59 and a half years old in the state of California, according to the USDA. I think if you look at least internally, the average for non-farm work is about 40. So you're talking about a 15 to 17 year difference between the two skills. So being able to invite the younger generation into these agronomy roles that are crucial, they're the backbone. These technology jobs we talk about, they're further downstream. The agronomy is where it really starts. So if we don't have the farmers of tomorrow, it really puts our supply chain in real danger. So I think we're really having to tell the story a little differently about how broad the opportunities are, like Jenny noted. There's everything from a technical standpoint to the more technology-based roles, some of the more back office roles that have really been developed with big data in ag. So it's a much broader array of opportunities in ag than there used to be, say, 40 years ago.
What are you excited about the future of agriculture in Kern County? Zach and then Jenny.
Look, I think if you're excited by challenges, this is the space for you. Even though the headwinds are perhaps stronger than they've been in the past, I think there's so many different opportunities, and more importantly, there's an opening for us to think differently about agriculture, and that's exciting to me and to the wonderful team. We've looked at innovation, we've looked at different efficiencies, we've looked at ways of telling the story from our products and really sort of enticing consumers to prefer and to appreciate how we grow. So I do think it's an exciting time. Just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's not exciting.
Absolutely. I mean, it's causing us to be more, innovative in our thoughts, more critical thinking into how we adapt to things. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the more, strong-willed, the more willing to adapt farmers that survive. And that's what's going to be the makeup of our economy after all of this is said and done. We're going to have some pretty strong people out there that can adapt and have proven that they can adapt, and hopefully we have a community that is there to support those individuals and to continue to support our agriculture here in Kern County.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Zach. Really appreciate all you do for the agriculture industry, advocating it and putting food on our tables. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Kern Economic Development Corporation's mission is to cultivate and promote the region's boundless opportunities for business. We are one of the most diverse economies in the country, as well as more STEM jobs than almost any region in the U.S. You heard tonight from the value-added agriculture, as well as the defense and aerospace industries. Kern County ranks number 3 in the U.S. in terms of agriculture production, and we have significant economic engines in the aerospace defense industry. Many people say we defend the world, we power the world, and we feed the world. Kern County is one of the most diverse economies in the country, as well as a leader with STEM jobs. We are also considered the energy capital of California. We actually provide 70% of the state's oil and gas, as well as 60% of the state's renewable energy. In addition, we have the world's largest battery energy storage system. We have over 50 distribution centers. Our advanced manufacturing industry is growing by leaps and bounds. Kern County is also the wind capital of the U.S. We have the nation's largest wind project. We're also an advanced manufacturing hub. Kern County will be home to the first steel production facility in the state in 50 years. Finally, healthcare is an important quality of life factor, and we're very proud of the institutions that serve our residents. Thank you to our partners as well as our sponsors for this evening's summit. We hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to seeing you in 2025.